the grappling arts are almost like a language. It's a language of grappling, and how when you have the complete untrained grappler and you throw him in on the mat, he knows no words, he knows no communication. And so in some ways, the early jiu-jitsu is more like an argument. And I'm going to hold on to this thing, even if my facts are wrong. I'm clinging on to this argument. And higher jiu-jitsu is about accepting what isn't there, what isn't a fact, and letting it go. So it's almost like from white through the purple belt, you're acquiring knowledge, you're acquiring language, you're learning how to speak the language. Sometime when you're a blue belt, you're starting to feel fluent in the language, but you're still often having to translate it in your native language. And sometimes through your purple belt is when you begin to think in this new language. And that's where you make that transition from somebody learning jiu-jitsu to doing jiu-jitsu. So for the higher parts, and I tend to not want to use higher because it sounds so hierarchical, but it's language of grappling starts to become accents and colloquialisms, and the introduction of slang that was once rejected as being improper now becomes a part of the evolving language. And if the grappling arts are the romantic languages, one could say, the Greco is Italian or Latin, and the jiu-jitsu is Brazilian Portuguese, and judo is maybe French, and they all have parts that you can kind of understand them. And when you resist and cling on to one language, it inhibits your learning of the others. And when you open your mind and say, no, I don't know judo, even though I'm a jiu-jitsu guy who wears a gi and has practiced a hip toss, when you open your mind and start learning the other arts, for myself, it brings me back to how much I literally just love the spirit of jiu-jitsu, which ultimately is the spirit of Aikido. And as much as I mock and we mock the effectiveness of the Aikido moves, as a philosophy, it's a wonderful art. With all of the arts, even the ones that I personally think are kind of stupid, rather than just looking for what's wrong with them or what's bad about them, I try to look for what's correct about them. And at the same time, the individual and group psychology of why an art persists. The good parts or the bad parts. What in us creates the persistence of either a good idea or a bad idea? How do we learn, right? What is the epistemology of epistemology?